Please welcome to the floor, Erica Shelton.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing tonight? Yeah, okay. Are we drinking yet? Not yet? Okay. So my name is Erica Shelton, and today I'm going to be talking to you about this weird event that we've all heard of called the Great Resignation. It applies differently in different industries, so I'm going to give some historical context first, and then I'll get into some tips for employers, business owners, employees, and professionals. But first, I have to tell you something. I called my boss today, and I told her I'm sorry, I can't go to work, I'm sick. She's like, well, Erica, why, you're sick again? Why are you sick? Well, I have anal glaucoma. She's like, what in the world is anal glaucoma? I just can't see my ass working today. I got one more. So the HR officer is finishing up an interview with a young, fresh engineer, super excited, right? He's got his passion in the eyes, straight out of MIT. And they're finishing up the interview, and the interviewer inquires, so, what do you want your starting salary to be? And this young engineer says, well, I'm looking in the range of about $150,000, depending on benefits and signing bonus, of course. The interviewer replies, well, what would you say to 5 weeks of paid holiday vacation, 14 national paid holidays, a company retirement fund matching 50% of your salary, and a company car leased every 2 years, say red Corvette? The engineer gets up, all excited. Oh my gosh, are you kidding? The interviewer replies, yeah, but you started it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today at the Sterling Club, and thank you so much, John, for letting me speak here today as well. I just want to say before we get started, oh, I have a clicker. This is going to make things a lot easier. There we go. I come from the legal industry. I have the blessing and curse of working for my father, who's owned an executive search firm for 25 years. So when I was 12, I knew what the Martindale Hubble was. And at 13, my version of grounding was building databases for partners. At 17, I had to conduct 100 cold calls a day just so attorneys would stay on the phone with me. I was so nervous. I didn't know my script. But I have developed through this. I focus on partners with portable books of business. I consult for managing partners, executive committees. And last year, I went in-house with one of my father's clients. He's not happy about that. I totally am. So what I want to preface with is the Great Resignation is different in a lot of different industries. The legal industry is seeing something totally different than the hospitality industry is. So I'm going to try and provide as much appropriate professional recommendation that is that's applicable to all industries. Where's Brian? I know he's making fun of me. All right. So before we get started, allow me to take a sip of water really quick. Define the Great Resignation. We are going to define the Great Resignation with facts. And this is because right now there's a lot of different opinions on the Great Resignation. We've heard the Great Reflection, the Great Discontent, the Great Reshuffling. I'm just going to be talking about your bread and butter facts of this employee exodus that we have been seeing. So according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics December 2021 report, 4.3 million people quit their job in December. Let me put that in perspective. That is like every single person in the Las Vegas Valley quitting both of their jobs, or quitting their jobs twice. So that totaled 47.4 million people to quit in 2021. Now, why is this great and why is this so disparate? Well, in 2010, we were averaging less than 2 million workers quitting a month. So there is your Great Resignation and why the change in these numbers are a little bit of a cause for concern, because in 10 years, we have doubled the amount of workers that are quitting their jobs, quitting their bosses, or looking for something better. So now that I've defined it, we're going to get into some historical context, of course, because it's important to figure out how we got here and what is really happening underneath the Great Resignation. And then we'll get into employers, or tips for employers, because change starts at the top. I'm sorry, guys, the responsibility's on you. And then we'll talk about tips for professionals and employees and what you guys can do to leverage this market advantageously. What I would like for you guys to do is help me get into the meat of the theme of this speech. I'm going to say a phrase to you, and with your chest, I want you to say it back. The customer is always wrong. I know, I set you up for it, but you fell for it. The customer is not always right. I'm going to share a quote by someone you guys may have heard of, Sir Richard Branson. Have any of us heard of this guy, right? $8.7 billion net worth. So I'm going to share a quote from him, and this is really going to capture the main theme of my speech today. So I want you to know, if you're ignoring me, you're ignoring Sir Richard Branson. And this man once said that clients do not come first, employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of their clients. So, who are these employees? Well, these employees are me. Not necessarily me, but these employees are millennials. Now, millennials are the largest working population in America. And when I talk about millennials, I don't want you guys to envision somebody who just looks like me, because the oldest millennials are 41. Okay? The oldest millennials are, early 40s. So we have early 40s to mid 20s. This is our largest working population in the country right now. And we need to understand something that's fundamentally different about the millennial generation. Millennials grew up with the internet. I know, you all know this, but let me explain what that means. Growing up without the internet, our world was very, very, very small. There was only a few careers one even heard of, and successful people were only accessible to us via newspaper or TV, right? And so society stepped in and taught us the way. And the way to be happy is to be wealthy. And the way to be wealthy is to get a good job. But to get a good job, you need a college degree. And to get a college degree, you have to finish high school. But with the internet, and more particularly social media, millennials' worlds are huge. They have become so much bigger. Not only are we seeing celebrities and business icons our age betting on themselves and winning, we're seeing all the different avenues they're doing it through. So millennials are the first generation to find out that the way is just a way. And the deconstruction of this very primal societal custom has accelerated a couple of things. The biggest one is a shift in generational values, and that's where we're seeing a huge employee exodus. This shift in generational values was accelerated by technology, because now when workers aren't having their needs met, we can leave. And that's what you're seeing right now. So what's happening with this big exodus is that technology has turned our intention into action at a much accelerated rate, right? Millennials crave work-life balance. We're craving development and fulfillment. And that's because all of our time is being spent at work. And the more time that we're spending, the more we're expecting to get out of it beyond salary. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So the biggest reason employees are not having their needs met is because managers are not understanding this shift, right, in generational value. They're not understanding that millennials are craving something very, very different. And this shift can be summed up in one sentence. Americans have always lived to work. This just generation does not want to live to work. They want to work to live. And we are surrounded by immediate gratification all of the time. If I wanted any type of food delivered to me within an hour, I could get it. If I wanted a date this Friday night, all I'd have to do is download a dating app and swipe right enough, okay? So we want it, and we want it now. We don't even know what it is, but we want it now because we're so used to that. And that's what we're not getting in work. So where we're seeing this disconnect, like I said, is with the managers, right? And managers are the most important position in any sort of company. But what's happening right now, and have you guys heard the phrase, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Okay. A lot of employers, a lot of business owners, a lot of managers are implementing tactics and strategies that have always worked on the generations before them and wondering why it's not working for the millennials this time. The internet has changed everything. I'm sorry. I don't like it as much as I used to, but we need to adapt to this. And where I'm going to start is attracting the great client, the great talent, right? Who are you hiring? How are you bringing them in? What channels? This is going to dictate the type of employer that you are bringing into your company, that you're having represent on behalf of you. Because your employees are your first customers. And let me tell you, customers are going to listen to an employee review way before they listen to a customer review. So let's start at the front lines, attracting great talent. Companies are getting talent one of three ways: recruiter, hi, referral, or job ad. Like I said, the Great Resignation has affected so many different industries in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to focus on things, I'm going to focus on job ads, right? Not everybody is using recruiters, not everybody is getting a lot of referrals. When I talk about these job ads, let's have some fun. I want you guys to compare it to dating, right? Because business is so much like dating. You're on a dating profile, and let's say you're interested in women, okay? And you come across a dating profile, and the first profile you see, there's two pictures. And in the first picture, you can't even tell who the woman is, because it's a group photo. And then in the second photo, it's of her face, but it's really blurry, and you kind of can't tell what she looks like. You're not getting a clear picture of what you're getting into. You see where I'm going with this? The bio of this dating profile reads as follows. Minimum compensation must be $250,000. Must be 6'4". Ooh, we're pissing off some people now. Athletic body types preferred. Must be okay with dating older. How do we really feel about this dating profile? So say you go to a different one, right after this. Right following that dating profile, you go to the next one, and this profile has 6 photos. All are great quality, and I can see exactly what I'm getting myself into. And the bio goes something a little along the lines of, I love to laugh almost as much as I love my dog. When I'm not working, I'm volunteering or embroidering on my couch. And if you want to have a night out with the guys, I won't give you a hard time. Which dating profile is looking a lot more attractive? So now I'm going to give you guys a real life example so you think I'm not blowing this up, right? Shelton and Steele needed a virtual assistant in the fall of 2020. Assistants are one of the most common job postings out there. We've never posted a job ad before. I know that sounds funny because we're a recruiting firm, but it's always been some other avenue. So we went and we copied all the bread and butter job descriptions that we saw. Shelton and Steele is seeking a full-time executive assistant. The ideal candidate will provide top-level assistance for high-level executives. This person must have a servant's heart, be detail-oriented, proactive, self-motivated, efficient. Here are all of my list of demands, and I'm not telling you the salary. Guess how many replies we got? 4, but 3 said that they needed to know the salary before they were even going to take any assessments. So this job ad got deleted. Then we posted a second one a week later. I'm going to leave you in anticipation for a second. That looks like this. How would you like an entry-level position where you could tell the boss and everyone else what they needed to do? Ooh. How would you like it if your ideas, suggestions were not only taken seriously, but implemented and used to change the way the whole company does things? How would you like to work for a company where 60% of people are women, minority, or LGBTQT? How would you like to work for a company that gives back to its community? The big differences between these job ads, besides posting the salary, which is always going to be a really huge filter, is that this one meets employees where they're at. At the bottom here, it says, Shelton and Steele is seeking an assistant on a virtual basis. Here are the duties that will include. The candidate picked for this position will receive hands-on training and mentoring in both legal and in both business and professional capacities. There are clear metrics set in place for promotion and bonus. How many replies do you think we got to this one? Just shout out a number.
100.
Over 400 replies. So that's when you hire a recruiter, right? Because then you need to vet through the applicants. But that is the difference between old and new. And when I say old and new, I'm talking about the office and corporate culture in the 70s, the 80s, right? Where the best employee was the first one in and the last one out, who looked and who thought like the boss, right? And that culture is very exclusive of a lot of workers, particularly caregivers, right? So you need to make sure that your job ad is inclusive. It's not a list of demands with unclear pictures as to what these people are getting into. And you're also meeting them where they're at. So, there we go. So now we've got the hot girl. How do we keep her? You appreciate her. I say that lightly, but I don't at the same time. Retaining employees, unfortunately, there's a lot of infrastructure and policy change that is revolved around employee retention strategy. That's going to depend on your industry. That's going to depend on your business. There's so many different things here. So right now, what I'm going to talk about are immediate actions that managers, employers can immediately begin to implement with their employees to boost engagement, morale, and efficiency. Before you judge the words I put on this table, I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Immediate gratification is the biggest disconnect between employees and their current employers, right? We've talked about how fast I can get what I want. Outside of work, if I want praise, all I gotta do is post a photo. I'm gonna post a photo of me with my cat. I can post a photo with me playing I can post a photo of me giving a speech, and I'm gonna get so much praise and feedback and recognition. At work, annual, semi-annual, even quarterly are way too long of intervals to go without telling your employees how they're doing. A lot of the time, when I had first started in the recruiting industry, a big thing was, I actually got my annual review this year. I'm like, I can't believe it. I didn't get one last year. You know, none of my coworkers get them. It was normal for employees to not know how they were doing at their job. This is a deal breaker for millennials because we know everything. We have immediate access to all of the world's knowledge and business in the palm of our hand. And that definitely is going to affect some things, right? So, recognition. This is a big thing. And I'm not just talking about recognizing people at work and when they do good. That's definitely part of it. But at my current employer, everybody knows everybody's birthday. Everyone. And we're all presented with an opportunity to email that person, happy birthday. And additionally, whosever birthday it is, the managing partner sends that birthday person a video wishing them a happy birthday, saying thank you so much for being a part of this firm. I really appreciate everything that you're doing here. Remember? We appreciate the hot girl. We love her. That's how she stays with us. Rewards. This kind of goes into infrastructure change a little bit, but bear with me on this one, okay? Millennials have entered the labor force at an hourly rate. We are being paid by the hour. So let me tell you, I know how to do nothing for an hour and make it look like I did everything I needed to. If you are paying employees by time spent rather than output, they're just going to make sure they're showing up instead of showing out. So with rewards and transparent rewards, it's very incentivizing for people to want to contribute, right? We can't help it. We want to contribute. Our worlds are so big. Remember how I was saying that earlier? We've seen so much, and we see this world that we're a part of, and it makes us want to give a meaningful contribution. But that's not rewarded in corporate America. Nobody wants your meaningful contribution. They want you to get to work, right? At my old employer, we gave cash bonuses, not huge, but cash bonuses for business ideas that accelerated the way that we did things. And when somebody got a bonus, everyone in the firm knew about it. 60% of Shelton and Steele's standard operating procedures were invented by employees. And that's why we run really, really well, and we've been growing really well. So I know these are all things that you guys already know, but I want to explain the importance behind it, because these employees that you're trying to retain, they need to know that you are invested in them beyond company gain. The number one driving influencer for engagement is development. These are tumultuous times. We are in calendar year 3 of a global pandemic, and we've been surrounded by so much uncertainty. Our managers, our employers, whether you look up to them or not, are going to be your first line leaders. So as an employer and as a manager, appreciation and reassurance, hey, I see you. Pulling an employee aside on Friday or just randomly, hey, I just want to let you know that I've been seeing the work that you've been putting in, and I really appreciate it. And if you ever need any help, or if you ever want to talk about ways we can improve things, I'm here as a resource. We are seeking a coach, not a dictator. Somebody who's there to tell us, hey, you're doing a good job, and when you're not, that's okay, because here's how you can do it better. That's how you're going to be able to retain this great talent. Now, there's a couple of things I'm not mentioning, right? Work-life balance and remote work is a really big one, but that varies by industry, right? If you're in retail or if you're a bartender, you can't work remotely. It's not gonna work out. Unless you're a robot bartender, then I guess you don't have to worry about it. But anyways, so there are a couple of aspects that aren't in here, but I do wanna highlight with some examples in the workforce. So, as John kindly mentioned, I work for a law firm. And if there is one profession hesitant to change, it is the profession of the law. Law firms have been operating on a business model, on the same business model, for over a century. How many of you know businesses that have operated the same way they did prior to the Civil War? Okay. So with law firms, you had a caste system. You got managing partner, executive committee, partner, associate, paralegal, right? You billed by the hour. You billed 70 hours a week in the same office that you went for 20 to 30 years. And a very common phrase that I'm hearing from these younger associates I get on the phone with is, look, I see the partner I work for. He's on his second wife, his third heart attack, and his fourth job. I don't want it. So I know infrastructure change and policy to adapting to catering to employees is possible because a law firm did it, and I work for them. And what this model really offers to its professionals is autonomy, paired with security and support. Now again, this is a legal industry, so it's not as applicable to all, but let me kind of break down the firm that I work for. If you asked me where our headquarters were, I would tell you Earth, because everybody works where they want. If you asked me what their average hourly rates were, I couldn't tell you, because partners get to determine their rates, how they see fit, how it makes best business sense for their clients. Paralegals are treated with the same respect as managing partners. And here, if you bring in business, you keep 80%. That's my favorite part of the pitch. A lot of attorneys are seeing this immediate income increase and autonomy, right? And then to add to our culture, here's my welcoming package. This is the law firm where everybody knows everybody's birthdays, right? You have the model, but it's also catered with the culture. Yeah, perfect. So let me see. Yeah, it's also catered with the culture. All right. How are we feeling? Are we still alive, alert, and enthusiastic? Okay, wonderful. So now that I've covered some examples of modern firms, right, we've talked about how to attract great talent and retain great talent. I'm going to go ahead and get into some tips for employees and professionals, but a lot of what I'm going to be talking about also transfers to business owners and professionals as well. Before I get started, what happened to the snowflake who was asked to come in 30 minutes early to work? They had a meltdown. Look, you boomers can complain about millennials all you want, but if I had $1 for every time you did, I'd actually be able to afford a house. All right, so millennials, this is the country's biggest working population, right? And we are kind of scary, a little bit, in the sense that we really kind of just want to do what we want to do, right? And I know that contradicts a lot of what I just talked about, but I'm going to focus in on that drive and that ambition and that individualism right there, because professionals, it is time to rethink and rebrand. As a very wise poet once said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. That's what we're going to be talking about today. It is time to rethink and rebrand, right? I've said this. Your brand is absolutely crucial, and it needs to be translated into your conversations with people, the company you keep, into your online presence, and definitely into your job. It is absolutely imperative for every professional to figure out these 4 components, and that is, who are you? Who are you not? Who are you here for? These are your clients, your customer base, right? And who do you give to? Now, who do you give to? Shout out millennials, we invented that component of brand, right? Millennials will walk out of Starbucks A and across the street to Starbucks B. Starbucks B is donating to their favorite cause. So that's something that we have to take into account, right? And it's also a great rapport builder. So I'll do an example with me really quick. Who am I? Well, when I first entered the workforce, I branded myself as the anti-millennial, showing up early, leaving late, not wanting a promotion or a meaningful contribution right away, right? I needed to make myself a little competitive for the job market. So who am I not? Well, I'm not going to be unresponsive. I'm not going to be unreliable. I'm not going to be somebody who won't own up to my mistakes. Who are you here for? I am 25 years old, so I have to act a lot older and more sophisticated and formal than I actually am in order for my customer base to take me seriously, which is very high-end businesses, law firms, consultings, right? And who do I give to? Well, anybody that knows me knows that my father started as a homeless teen. And if one person one day wasn't really, really nice and asked my dad if he wanted a shot, I probably wouldn't be here giving a speech to all of you beautiful people. So that is my cause. Another example that we can kind of go through this is Greta Thunberg, right? The climate change activist. She's like 13 years old, from Sweden. She gave a speech at the UN. Who are you? She is climate change activist, right? Very, very focused on the environment, very, very focused on global warming and the prevention of that. Who are you not? Well, we can assume she's not a person that uses plastic or drives a diesel truck or isn't recycling, right? This is what I'm talking about of your brand. What can people assume about you based on the brand that you are creating for yourself? Now, professionals and employees are usually offering products, services, or a combination of the both. And it's really important that you apply this brand to what it is exactly you want to do. Right now, there is the explosion with the economy gig, right? That's boomers' way of saying millennials are getting 2 jobs everywhere. But the economy gig has actually proved really advantageous for both employers and employees because it allows employees an alternative, and that is to be an independent contractor. And being an independent contractor alleviates payroll tax and health benefits from your employer, which is great, right, for them. And it also gives you an immediate increase on your compensation as well as more control over your time. But you need to figure out if this is the right situation for your brand and what it is that you're serving, because you're also not getting health benefits. So that might be a make or break for some of you. But we have our brand, we figure out what we want to do. So now it's time to talk about how that translates into the online presence. If you are not taking advantage of technology professionally, you are falling behind. And when I say this, look, I hate social media, okay? And I grew up with it. I remember elementary school, we had assemblies about the dangers of MySpace. And then 2 years later, everyone was on Facebook. In high school, I got Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and I haven't downloaded anything since. Don't talk to me about TikTok, I don't want to hear it. But it's important, right? Everything is on the internet. Everybody is looking on the internet as well. So your brand needs to translate this. The first thing we're going to talk about is a media kit. If you don't have a media kit, please grab my card. But a media kit is absolutely crucial for everybody to have. This is basically your portfolio, right? Or to my millennials, this is your professional dating profile. Why is it advantageous to hire you? What do you bring to the table? I want you guys as employees and as professionals to stop thinking of yourself as a future employee and start thinking of yourself as a collaborative business. So when you're coming to the interview for your future employers, you're coming to the table as other business, right? And we're not doing that as much right now, but I'll get into that in a second. The second thing for your online presence that I want to talk about is social media, right? So you need a media kit. This is great materials. You'll usually send this over to an interviewer. But the second thing I want to talk about is a designated social media page with an accessible portal to your network. Now, for the majority of us, this is going to be LinkedIn. But for the very, very few professionals, sometimes TikTok or Instagram is a much better platform, especially if you're getting into marketing and PR. But I'm going to focus on LinkedIn, because here's the beautiful thing about LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, it is entirely appropriate to post pictures of your dog or volunteer experience, your March Madness pics or brackets or however that works. You are able to highlight with photos all of the soft skills of who you are. And if there's one thing every employer looks at, it's your resume and your LinkedIn. So if your interviewer loves the New York Giants, and on your LinkedIn you have interest as New York Giants, you think you might have a little bit more of an advantage, right? That's what this is supposed to do. We're supposed to highlight personal details and make you a lot more, I don't want to say likable, right? But showing the soft skills to what you have to offer also beyond company gain. It needs to go both ways. I'm going to show this profile as an example. Many of you might know this man. This is my father. But he uses LinkedIn specifically to attract clients. In fact, one social media post my father posted netted him $300,000 and a new client, because he was sharing curated content on his feed and was giving recommendations and analysis, and somebody responded. And now that somebody who responded has been a client for 7 years. What he has done is has taken advantage of this online presence, right? And to my younger professionals, I don't want you to be discouraged by the amount of followers. He has 857 followers. This is from time in the business. So the sooner you start to build your online presence, the more value it adds time over time. All of the contacts that you're making, all of the features that you're doing, this is your repertoire of everything that you've been doing. And I want to do another exercise for you to paint a picture for this, okay? Say there are 2 applicants applying for a job. You've got applicant A and applicant B, and they both have all of the qualifications and requirements necessary for this job posted. Applicant A not only passed all of the assessments and provided awesome references, but they also came from 3 different companies of similar size and brand, which is a huge plus, right? That's all they had. Similar experience and a similar size and brand, excellent references, and they passed all the assessments. Applicant B has the same thing. Same type of experience from the same type of companies. They passed all the assessments. They have excellent references. They also have a following of 2,000 professionals on LinkedIn. And they've been quoted in national media. And on the first interview, they're able to refer potential business to the employer. Which applicant do you think is going to have an advantage? So the online presence is wonderful for that regard in leveraging to your interview, right? Your interviewer is going to be researching you. They're going to be looking at what you have to offer, or at least they should. The last thing I'm going to talk about with LinkedIn is that it has testimonials and recommendations at the bottom of it. Now, this is great. If you are first starting out or if you've been in the industry for a really long time, ask for testimonials. And they don't even have to write it. What you can do is write the review for them and send it to them and say, hey, I really enjoyed the business that we did together. I would really appreciate it if you could put a testimonial on my LinkedIn. I know you're really busy and I value your time, so I went ahead and wrote something up. Please feel free to either leave it as is or edit how you see appropriate. And that way they're just copying and pasting. He has 17 testimonials that way. So this is a really big thing because a very common interview question is, what could your coworkers tell me about you? And you say, well, allow me to read you testimonials from my LinkedIn. How much stronger does that sound? So I've been talking for quite some time, right? We've talked about this great resignation and this huge exodus of employees. And we talked about one of the main reasons it's happening is because of this disconnect in generational value. I talked to employers about how to retain and attract, right? Now with employees, I've talked to you about your online presence and how to build your brand. But the biggest hurdle that us as employees have to overcome is a little bit more psychological. We feel the need to please our boss. We can't help it. This stems from our parents, right? When we were obedient to our parents, we were rewarded. And when we weren't, well, we were disciplined. And as we got older, this power dynamic transferred to the authority figures at our job because now instead of your parents putting food on the table, your boss signs a check that does. That's not necessarily a problem. Where that becomes a problem is when you start trying to please your boss before you're even hired. In this market where there is so much demand for work and not enough supply willing to do the work, you have the advantage of coming to the other side of the table as a collaborative business, not a future employee. And what I mean by that is it's important to go in prepared, right? Again, this is a lot like dating. How you let people treat you in the beginning is going to teach them how they can treat you for the remainder of your time with them. So when you are going into this interview, when you're prepping to get with this new employer, do your research. Oh my gosh, do your research, guys, because knowledge is the only currency to people with actual power. And what knowledge can do for you is something that people with power don't always know that they can do for themselves, right? If you're coming into an interview and you have researched this business's competitive state in the market, whether or not they're growing, whether or not they're maintaining, whether or not they just opened a new office or they launched a new service, all of these things that you're researching are going to help you come to the table as a collaborative business. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I tell this to my candidates all the time because employers are courting you too. That's the thing that we tend to forget because of the people-pleasing aspect. And we see this a lot in dating, right? Especially when you're younger, because when you're younger, the stakes are so much steeper. When you're younger, all you have is your experience, which is not a lot because you're young, and the rest of what you have is what you read on Twitter. And so you are a little bit more tentative about what you want, and you're not as bold to say that you don't want to come in on Sundays or that you do expect a promotion within a year. And you make these small sacrifices in hopes that maybe one day they'll see you and they'll see what you have to offer. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And you have to go in with those questions and with that type of preparation. Now, some examples of these questions. A big thing that I always tell my candidates when they start talking about the salary. What kind of salary are you looking for in this position? Well, does this position have a salary budget? That's a great retort. Every single employer needs to prepare for new hires, and new hires are very expensive. They require a lot of training, and they require a lot of mentoring. So new hires require a business plan. Ask your future employer about that business plan. Are there clear, objective metrics for me to get a promotion or for me to get a raise? How much time am I expected to be put into this job? Or is it more results-oriented? This type of preparation gives you that leverage of coming to the table as a collaborative business. Again, these employers are trying just as hard to recruit you as you are trying to please them and be everything that you think that they want. So the main message that I want everybody, I guess, to really take home, and it's kind of cheesy, but given all of the text I've been, you have to do what's best for you. At the end of the day, you have to do what is best for you, because doing what's best for you is what's best for those around you, right? If you are accepting a job that you know you're going to be miserable at, or you're just doing to get the rent, you are going to resent that job. And then you'll be that grumbly old employee, and it's like, why is she even working here? She doesn't even like it, right? So it's very, very important that you have to do what's best for you. And then that goes back to our employers, right? Development, fulfillment, being invested in your workers beyond company gain. Because when you get that type of investment, the engagement you receive in return pays for itself. So today, what I hope you've taken from this is that corporate evolution has arrived. It's not a doomsday message, more of a survival guide to the world that we know. But employers that know how to adapt and pivot to be able to attract and retain great talent will thrive. And employees who know how to leverage advantages in this labor market and their online presence and brand will also thrive. Those who don't will survive. And that's okay, but we all know that we want to do a little bit better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much. You have been an amazing audience tonight. If anyone has any questions.